But this week, we also acknowledge community heartbreak in Rochester due to a series of ICE actions dubbed the Valentine's Raids. This Wednesday, I received a call from a worker in Rochester, Minnesota. He shared that he watched in horror through a restaurant window as his coworkers were arrested by ICE. The ICE action at Napa Restaurant is part of a larger campaign of ICE in Rochester this week, the Valentine's Raids. But this week, we are choosing love, while ICE has chosen heartbreak in the community of Rochester. We knew that Minnesota would be a target in this campaign of fear, as it was in 2006 during the infamous Swift raids in Worthington, Minnesota. So we were prepared to respond. Since that call, we deployed organizers across Rochester and tracked ICE activity at businesses, apartment buildings, and hotels that serve as hospices. We saw you outside Hy-Vee. We saw you outside Mr. Car Wash. We know the hotel you're staying at and the floor you're renting. We know where you're at. We activated a wide-reaching alert system to inform our neighbors of ICE's elevated local presence. We brought together a dozen organizations in Rochester yesterday in protest, as they are doing again today, to send a message of choosing love over heartbreak. Despite the campaign of fear and hate, we gather today to affirm that immigrants have basic rights regardless of immigration status. I'm going to share some of them with you today. The right to remain silent, derecho a permanecer en silencio. The right to request legal counsel, derecho a pedir abogado. The right not to sign anything, derecho a no firmar nada. The right not to open the door, derecho a no abrir la puerta. And for many of us, the 14th Amendment, which we celebrate this 14th of February, the right of citizenship for all persons born or naturalized in the United States, regardless of family immigration history. Today, we celebrate those rights as a network, and I invite those who are working to defend them to come up and speak, starting with John Benda from ICOM. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Benda. I am a leader and the co-chair of ICOM, the Minnesota Interfaith Coalition on Immigration. Our mission is to engage in courageous multicultural action in solidarity with immigrants and refugees to achieve justice and to stand up to systems of oppression. ICOM is an organization from many faiths, of people from many faiths and of no particular faith that opposes systems like immigrant detention and deportation that dehumanize people and destabilize its families. Through our aid program, we provide emotional, financial, and logistic support to asylum seekers and people who are in detention and to their families. We also work with other immigrant rights organizations to advocate for policies that improve the lives of our immigrant neighbors. And we hold a monthly vigil at the Federal Immigration Court at Fort Snelling to show our support for the people brought there for hearings and to register our opposition to our country's cruel and unjust immigration system. We were just out there this past Tuesday morning in 10-degree below weather with over 30 people. As part of the Immigrant Defense Network, we are aligning to coordinate on support services because we love our immigrant neighbors and respect immigrant rights. We believe at this moment, it is more important than ever to work together on support services, given that immigrant communities are living in fear right now. Immigrants have rights, and we are coordinating efforts with legal teams to make sure everybody knows this. Everyone, no matter what they look like, what language they speak, how they worship, deserves a safe, stable, and dignified place to thrive and call home. We're honored to be part of this collective effort to defend the rights of immigrants and to support their families. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And I'd like to invite Danielle Hendrickson to come up next. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Danielle Hendrickson, and I am with Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid, whose mission is to provide free legal services to our most vulnerable neighbors. This includes neighbors of any legal status: citizens, green card holders, undocumented neighbors. Not every justice organization can do this. We can because we do not and will not accept money that puts conditions on who we represent. As part of the Immigrant Defense Network, we are aligning to be sure everyone knows their legal rights because we love our immigrant neighbors and respect immigrant rights. We believe at this moment it is more important than ever to work together to rely on the rule of law because we all have rights, human rights and legal rights. We're working with the advocates for human rights and other immigration lawyers to make sure people around the state have immigration legal help when and where they need it. We're working hard to make sure people have access to reliable immigration information to make good decisions for themselves and their families. I'm honored to be part of a collective effort to defend the rights of immigrant families because my team, the Immigration Law Project at Legal Aid, represents these families. We know their stories and their resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity. But in so many instances, the law is on their side. We're here to ensure that. Happy Valentine's Day. Now I'll pass it to Julio Zelaya.
Hello, everybody. My name is Julio Murphy Zelaya, he, him, and I'm with the American Civil Liberties Union of Minnesota. We're an organization dedicated to the protections of due process and protecting the equal rights of everyone. Those protections are enshrined in our Constitution and in our Bill of Rights. These are rights that extend to everyone, regardless of citizenship status. Today, as I look around, we're stronger. We're stronger as we join the Immigrant Defense Network. We're going to be joining them with a cadre of about 500 attorneys from across the nation, over 2,000 advocates that will be pushing to ensure the rights of immigrants are defended here and everywhere. We already filed 5 legal actions against the Trump administration, and we will continue to work to ensure that everyone's rights are defended. As a part of today, we know that we feel a shadow of tyranny that's pushing against us, and we will continue to join this network and join networks across the nation to ensure that our communities remain safe. We're fighting Goliath. We're fighting every day, and we're continuing to fight every day until our communities, again, are safe. So I want to thank you all. I want to just thank the Immigrant Defense Network, and we'll continue to work. Happy Valentine's Day.
And our next speaker is Monta Chung with Minnesota 8.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monta Chum, and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of Minnesota 8. We're a Southeast Asian organization that serves to help Southeast Asian immigrants and refugees facing injustice against detention and deportation. I am a proud immigrant and refugee, and today we gather with one clear and powerful message: we love our immigrant neighbors. At a time when fear and division are being used to harm our communities, we choose love. We choose unity, and we stand together to say loudly and clearly, immigrants have rights. Every single person in this country, regardless of where they were born, is protected by basic rights, including those upheld by our U.S. Constitution. Yet we are witnessing a growing false narrative designed to divide us, a narrative that seeks to dehumanize us and weaken the bonds that hold our communities together. This rhetoric is dangerous, and it fuels policies that strip away dignity and human rights, but we will not allow it to define our communities. Asian Americans are no strangers to this dangerous rhetoric. In 2025 actually marks the 25th or the 50th anniversary since the U.S. military intervention in Southeast Asia, which caused the mass displacement of over 1.2 million Southeast Asian refugees resettling in the U.S. The U.S. dropped more than 2 billion tons of bombs in Laos and Cambodia. We are here because the U.S. was there. As refugees and immigrants, all we ever wanted was to be able to have a peaceful and safe world. However, when our communities experience deportation, it feels like the war again. I have seen babies ripped from the arms of their parents, families separated by glass, wondering if they will ever see each other again. That is why Minnesota Aid stands in solidarity today and every day. Our organization was born out of love, the love of families fighting to stay together, the love of communities standing up for one another, and the love of justice that calls us to action. We know firsthand the impact of anti-immigrant policies and refuse to let fear win. Together, we are shifting the narrative, replacing fear with hope, division with unity, and hate with love. And what better time to send this message than on Valentine's Day? Today, we celebrate the 14th Amendment, a cornerstone that just affirms equal protection against the law. We must continue to protect our civil and human rights and stand up for justice. Because love is greater than hate, because our communities are stronger together, because immigrants are not alone, we are here. We are united, and we will never stop fighting for dignity and justice. Can you all please put your fist in the air with me? If you have these cards, hold up this card. Stand with immigrants. Thank you. And now I will hand it over to Fadumo Mohammed.
Barashawan accent and good morning. My name is Fadumo Mohammed and I'm an advocate here with Ayala Leads, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering African diaspora communities and immigrants. But today I am not just speaking as an advocate. I am speaking as a person who believes in fundamental human rights, because at its core, immigration is not just a policy debate or a political talking point, it's a human rights issue. Every person deserves safety, dignity, and the freedom to build a better future. Yet across the country, we are witnessing a systemic attack on those rights. Families separated, asylum seekers turned away, birthright citizenship threatened, and entire communities treated as if they are disposable. But let me be very clear, immigrants are not disposable. We are not a problem to be solved or a statistic to be debated. We are human beings. And through our campaign school training at Ayala Leads, we equip immigrants and communities of color with the steps to step into leadership and decision-making spaces, because our voices matter. We belong here. We are already here, and no law, no border, no policy of exclusion can erase our existence. We must also recognize the truth of this land. We stand on indigenous land, land that was stolen violently. History has shown us that oppression thrives when we allow it to divide us, but justice demands we stand together and we love each other. This is not just an immigration issue. This is a human rights issue. When one group's rights are stripped away, it's only a matter of time before another groups are targeted. Your neighbor's humanity is your business. My neighbor's dignity is my business. We are each other's business, and we must love each other. At Ayala Leads, we will not stop fighting, and we will stand in solidarity. We will organize, protect each other, demand policies that affirm the dignity of every person. But we cannot do this alone, as you see here today. We need you. Stand with us, speak out, take action, organize, because when we fight for human rights, we win together, and we will win. Thank you, and happy Valentine's Day. I'd like to introduce Beth Slocum.
Good morning. My name is Beth Slocum. I'm a farmer, and my husband and I raise sheep in Goodhue County. I'm also currently the chair of the board of Land Stewardship Project. Land Stewardship Project is here today, standing with our partner Copal and other allies to support the many immigrant communities in Minnesota that are committed to and invested in our food and farming system. For over 40 years, Land Stewardship Project has been dedicated to our mission, fostering an ethic of stewardship for farmland, promoting sustainable agriculture, and developing healthy communities in our food and farm system. LSP's members and supporters are farmers and non-farmers all over Minnesota and the upper Midwest, and we believe that if Minnesota is to have a truly sustainable food and farming system, it must be sustainable for everyone involved in that system, no matter their economic background, race, ethnicity, or country of origin, whether they are farmers, farm workers, working in dairy production, or in meat processing. Through much of LSP's work, we see firsthand the role that immigrant families play in revitalizing our rural economies and renewing our farmland. And we value Minnesota's long tradition of welcoming folks from different countries, many who bring their expertise and passion for farming with them. Our immigrant farmers bring new crops, new ideas, ingenuity, and innovation. They bring their skills and expertise and they help revitalize our rural communities and the economies. And they have been the backbone of our Minnesota food and farming system for many decades. Our immigrant neighbors are deeply embedded in our food and farming system, on our farmland, in our towns and cities. Many have been here for generations, and others recently arrived, bringing a passion for farming and farm work, coming to make their homes and livelihoods here. We do love our immigrant neighbors, and we need them. They are our next generation of small and mid-sized farmers. They are the promise of a stable and growing future for our small towns and cities, and they bring aspirations and desires for a food and farming system that works for everyone. We want our immigrant neighbors right here. So thank you and happy Valentine's Day. And I'll turn it back to Ryan.
To close, I'd like to share some of the incredible work this network has accomplished. This week, we have delivered 14,000 Valentines with Know Your Rights information across the state of Minnesota. Partners have held 10 community art workshops across the state, over half in Minnesota, greater Minnesota, making handmade Valentines with messages of love for immigrants. Today, there are public demonstrations happening in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Mankato, and Monticello, Minnesota. Tomorrow, community is activating in Austin, Minnesota. Lastly, I share that this network, the Immigrant Defense Network, has embarked on a historic Know Your Rights education initiative. Amongst our organizations together, we will educate over 20,000 Minnesotans and advance policy efforts to protect immigrant families across the state. We are together this Valentine's Day, overcoming a campaign of fear and hate and choosing love. With that, we can have a couple minutes for any questions.
Since we're here at the Capitol, I guess, are you aware of the bills that have been introduced in the House related to like strengthened enforcement and things, and do you have reaction to that?
Well, we definitely had a group of folks testifying against HF 10. We see a number of state efforts also seeking to rip away the resources that are for immigrants who are already here, already working. But I want to lift up in particular, they're targeting Minnesota's kids, especially with the North Star Promise program. When they seek to remove that funding, what they're talking about is Minnesota's high schoolers, our kids that go to school with your kids, who have dreams of higher education and have dreams of staying in and contributing to the state's economy. And they're seeking to remove that opportunity from those kids. So yes, so many of these organizations have amazing policy campaigns. And a lot of it right now is playing defense because our immigrants are under attack at every level of government.
The Trump administration has opened up sensitive spaces like churches, schools, to ICE agents. Do you have any reactions to that?
Wait, Julio, it's not giving good. One for you to take.
A lot of our folks, thank you for that question. A lot of our folks, again, Julio from ACLU, a lot of our folks knew churches, schools, hospitals, even our courthouses, right, as places that were sensitive to immigration enforcement. These are spaces that our community sought to live their lives, right? These are places that we see as essential for all our communities. If someone is hurt, access to the hospital, access to the daily ability to go to school. The Trump administration is trying to rip this memo away from the enforcement of ICE. We're going to be asking folks to make sure that they know that there's going to be, that still we have rights regardless of where we are, regardless of, you've heard Ryan kind of despite some of the rights that we have, we still have rights to our privacy, right? That threshold of our home is a really important one that I know so much of the enforcement wants to go through. And we're going to be stopping that. I want to make sure people say, you can't come into this without a judicial warrant. And ICE rarely has one. So we want to be pushing, making sure that folks know their rights, where they stand, regardless of where they stand. Anywhere in the United States, we're going to be making sure that you have rights. And we're pushing back against that.
Julio, you mentioned that you filed for 5 legal actions from the ACLU. Can you briefly touch on what those 5 legal actions are?
Yeah, I won't be speaking about all of them right now. I think our legal team can get back to enough, but we're working with our national network to make sure that as things roll out, a lot of these executive orders just really seem to be unworkable. And I know we have some other folks here from our legal organizations that are working also nationally, but we're finding a lot of these to just be unworkable executive orders that are meant to be pushing chaos, asking school teachers that don't know exactly how to engage with their students anymore. And so as of right now, we're going to be pushing to make sure that the message is, one, you still have rights, that everything that happens in executive orders has to be in line with laws in our state that's passed by Congress, and more importantly, through our Constitution, right? So that's what we're going to be pushing against. We're going to be pushing against to make sure that you know all these things and everything is in line with the laws we already have. And we're not going to be allowed to be gaslit to knowing to push things that we otherwise know to be untrue.
Y'all mentioned the brothers who were arrested down in Rochester and the restaurant that had to close as a result. Are you guys aware of other arrests at all and any impact in other businesses around Minnesota?
We've heard a lot from the Trump administration, and so obviously you gotta take a lot of things that are contradictory, but one thing that someone said, I think, was, we're gonna pick 3 cities a week, and we're gonna target them, and we're gonna terrorize them. And what we have is, in Rochester, being targeted for the week. All the evidence suggests that ICE is staying at a downtown hotel in Rochester, rented out one of the levels of that hotel. We know and will not disclose that information for legal purposes. But, and they are picking and targeting Rochester businesses and places around the community this week. So we have photo of them and video in different locations, outside of a Mr. Car Wash. We have them outside of a Hy-Vee making arrests. We have a worker who testified to us that it was more than 2 arrested outside of that restaurant, despite some of the reporting. And so we have a lot of combination of photo, video, and community stories that are saying, actually ICE just grabbed my whole family. They went to that restaurant, but then they found out the address I live at, and they grabbed my whole family. So what we want to know how many people have been detained in Rochester this week. We don't have that information, but we're working among many of the partners here. I know some of them, show up at the detention centers and ask for the names of the people. And so we're doing what we can, because what we're hearing now is the aftershock is more than the person detained and arrested, right? The aftershock is the family around them and the friends around them. And how hard it is when we got family members that said, my whole family was just taken away, what do I do right now? When we had someone who said, my friend is detained, my friend has no family here in Minnesota, but is a hard worker and has no criminal record and was never expecting this kind of detention. And so we're hearing these stories from the ground in Rochester right now, and the community's heart is breaking. And I think it's ironic, in the place of the Mayo Clinic, where people are going to get their hearts repaired, that the hearts are breaking. So we're celebrating our rights this Valentine's Day, but there's a lot of context to what's happening in Rochester, Minnesota. And I've named some businesses very intentionally, because I want to call on the business community to step up right now. This is not good for your business. If the restaurant is closed now, and the restaurant hasn't gotten job applications for over 2 years from anybody, how are they going to keep up their business? This is not replacing American workers. These are businesses that are going to go down under. These are places that immigrants in the community are now afraid to shop at, afraid to engage in the economy in Rochester, because they're afraid of leaving their houses. When we talked about schools, parents are afraid to send their kids to school now. That's not helpful for anyone. So let's lead the way in Minnesota and protect immigrant rights.
You mentioned Valentine's Day cards with know your rights information. Can you explain how that was distributed, who got them, and all that?
And we have some some folks have some. You want to? Here's one example of a card. So we did one version that we made. So actually, it's more than 14,000. We did one version that we printed 14,000 of. But then organizations across this network also made their own, had art workshops where people made handmade Valentines. So we're probably talking more like 20,000 Valentines. But 14 is catchy because it's February 14th. But what they do is a lot of them have QR codes to know your rights information, informational videos, and things like that, because people need to know some basics. They don't have to open the door, they don't have to let ICE in.
Is there a message you can send to the Spanish-speaking audience, specifically for Telemundo in Spanish, that you can send directly about the Immigrant Defense Network and what you guys doing?
Sí. Somos una red para la defensa de latinos y otros inmigrantes minnesotanos que están viviendo, pues, que vivimos aquí. Estas son nuestras comunidades y tenemos ciertos derechos. Ya tenemos derecho, no importa el estatus migratorio. Tenemos el derecho de silencio, tenemos el derecho de no abrir la puerta, a no firmar nada. Están trayendo documentos ficticios para tratar de agarrar información de la comunidad y poder arrestar. Eso no podemos tener, pero tenemos una comunidad activada. Conéctense con las organizaciones aquí porque tenemos red de recursos, tenemos recursos sobre todo el estado. Y también, no solo para latinos, hay grupos de la comunidad asiática, de los africanos y otros países que están aquí presentes luchando. So, sí tenemos recursos. Sí, Minnesota puede continuar a ser un estado liderando para la comunidad inmigrante. Gracias.
Gracias.
Maybe we can take one more question. Any more questions? Okay, thank you so much. And really quick, a chant. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Thank you, everybody. Oh, sure.
Julio, can I have you more up front, please? No. You were speakers. I need all the speakers up front. Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2, and cheese. Sorry, guys, it's like a birthday party. One more. Can I have another one?